Good day. We're going to service reverb today. That's sagging under weight. This is an A2. And the way you identify if it's an A series is there's no writing here on the stanchion. If there is a reverb, if it says reverb on it, it's either a B1 or a C1. Anyway, this one we'll just do an oil change because this has sag, but it's fine otherwise. So I ripped it off the bike, obviously. I'm gonna take off this fitting. And then I like to extend the post. I just shove in a 4mm Allen key screwdriver. Yeah, as you can tell, it's really bad, this one. A huge amount of sag. So I'll remove the circlip in the bottom here. All of these. And then that gets exposed. This piece, when you're grabbing that, always use Nip-X because it's easy to strip them round off the corners. So I'll take off the bottom nut. Okay. I like to clamp it in an old stem to get to break the collar loose. This stem is a 31.8. Yeah, 31.8, but I use it for the 30.9 and 31.6 posts. Fits fine. Going out. Okay, so I'm going to remove these brass keys. And I also need to release the IFP pressure. Use a 9mm socket for that. Put a rag over it. Still has some built up pressure from the aerated oil, so I like to remove this very carefully. I'm pushing down on the shaft and the seal head while unthreading. Make sure it doesn't explode. that one was fine. So that comes out. Removing the collar. The IFP is all the way up, so I like to push that down so I can reach into the inner tube with a 90-degree pick. Pull that out. I use a J-bend spoke for the IFP. Try not to damage that, so that comes out. And then we'll drain the oil from this post. So that's the oil that came out. It's very aerated. I like to let this drain for a bit, a couple minutes, just like that, while I clean the rest of the parts and also assemble this inner shaft. Okay, so we'll take out the poppet valve from this assembly. Nipex and a 10mm wrench. Sometimes there's some built-up pressure, so I always have this facing down, and then use a pick to push out this poppet valve rod. Okay, and then since I know that the seals are fine on this, I'm not going to take it apart any further. So I'm just going to make sure that these ends are tight on the shaft, which it is. And then take a rag and wipe all this off. Wipe this off. Looks good. IFP is nice and clean. Wipe this bottom nut. Wipe out the inner post. Use the spoke to push this through. Inspect it. Looks good enough. Wipe out this inner tube. Drain it. And we'll clean the collar. Wipe this dust wiper. Remove the foam ring. Squeeze the foam ring. I soak it in some reverb fluid. Just a tiny bit. Put the foam ring back in place. And then wipe off this energizer spring. Okay, so these parts are clean now, and we'll just reassemble the post. Okay, so we'll reassemble the post. This upper tube was draining the entire time. Still like to wipe it out a bit more. It's good enough. So we'll put the inner tube in place. These holes are facing up. Pop that in place. IFP, I use some Silicoleum on this. Just a small amount. Pop that in. Use the IFP setting tool, which is just a tube. This is an A1, so we're going to the 35mm mark. Or sorry, A2. And then we'll take this. Well, actually, we'll take the collar first. Bit of Silicoleum on the inside. Then put it on. Except there's some these brass keys can sometimes deform these slots, so I like to sand off any burrs. And now the collar can go on. And we'll put this in place. A little bit of oil. Okay, so that's good. For A1s and A2s, always check here that the thread sealing O-ring is not pinched. Also, if the seal head is loose when you're disassembling the post, it's usually because the O-ring was pinched to begin with, and then the rubber relaxed, and then because of that, it came loose. So we'll set the oil level. And if the thread O-ring was pinched to be during the previous service, I would replace that, but it's fine in this case. So we'll set the oil height, which is at 186mm for this. Usually about how much oil comes out in all of these reverbs. And this pop goes into place. Slug that up. There's some oil collecting in the collar, so pour that out. And we'll inflate the post, 250 psi. And then we'll test it. Easiest way to test it is shove something in here. Ideally something that's big enough so it's not gonna move around too much and scratch the sides of this, which is a sealing surface. So compress it and then we'll extend it. Feels good. These posts have about 1 millimeter of sag or play in them, regardless of what you do, unless you vacuum bleed them. I don't know if that gets rid of them even. So anyway, the outer post can go in place now. We've used silicoleum on these key slots. These keys in place. And orient this outer post so that's facing backwards, which is this side of the post. And squeeze that bushing and wiggle the outer post in place so it goes past those brass skis, and put a bunch more silicoleum here, or any other grease really. And tighten the collar. Use the stem again. Okay, this bottom nut can go in place. Snug that up. And then the circlip. Use the sharp side of the circlip to be carrying the load. So in this case, the sharp side will be facing that way. And I like to use a pick and kind of spin that circlip, which indicates that it's nicely in that groove. Lastly, we'll put on this valve cap, 9mm socket. And then this connect-to-a-jig fitting. Use an 8 and a 10mm wrench for that. Just snug. And we'll fill up this fitting with oil, just so the hose can be connected right away. Take a tiny bit. And then this is an M5 bleed fitting. I just like to press this oil in and gently pull, and then kind of cycle it like that. And that's usually enough. So that's done. We'll just spray down the post and can go back on the bike. That's it.